Is yours serious?
Well, police officer was that ran over last night
No, I didn't know that.
in my district, but he was.
Well, let me
he
go
was
first.
off duty. Oh, which one?
Pigs. You gotta thank Fred for the pig route. Seriously.
I got nothing after that.
He jumped right on that.
Nobody's gonna care.
High kicks.
I think you should be second.
I know.
That would make me feel we have seven to seven.
All right, you go first then. You go first. That's fine. Kathy always wants to go first. You have tenure.
That's true. Every which way.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll bring this work session to order. And we will start with Mr. Keith Dorsey. Today is like the Keith Dorsey show. How you doing today, Mr. Dorsey? We'll start with page 1, administrative procedure in terms of retirement matters and beneficiaries.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. The first bill, 7718, is one asking for approval to alter the some administrative procedures there with our retirement system, in that the law currently indicates that for administrative appeals, that an individual member can go to the Office of Administrative Hearings. And when we did that particular provision, creating the Office of Administrative Hearings, we inadvertently left off that it should have said members or beneficiaries would have that ability to go to the Office of Administrative Hearings in terms of making an appeal. So as a more of a technical adjustment, we're requesting that we include in the appropriate spot the term and beneficiaries or beneficiaries and make this bill retroactive to March 4th, 2013, when we created those that special provision for the administrative hearings to be able to address any appeals coming through the retirement system.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Dorsey. We move on to page 3, Bill 78-18.
And this is also an item dealing with the retirement system, in that one part of it is changing the basis for how certain calculations are made. It was the recommendation of both our particular actuary as well as the Society of Actuaries that we address the calculation that in terms of the mortality table, that it be expanded. The current one that's in use goes through 2027, and we're requesting that the language in the law be changed to indicate that we would use a particular mortality table extending it through 2032. The recommendation for that is because of change in the longevity of people in terms of their living, and so that's why that is being recommended. There's also a request to amend a particular provision concerning 911 employees. Near the end of 2015, when we were making plans to change the employees at the 911 center over to 12-hour shifts, part of that work in negotiating with the employee group was to provide for the 911 employees, union employees, the same provision in terms of the calculation of time coming from sick leave, accrued sick leave, the same one that fire SMC have. And so that would be to take them from what currently was 22 days of sick leave would be equivalent to 1 month of service time. Changing it to 16 days of accrued sick leave would be equivalent to 1 month of service time. And so that provision is requested and requesting that it be retroactive to June 30th. We worked out the agreements back in 2015, but it was a delayed start in terms of when it was supposed to be effective. So this is to take the implementation back to, as I said, June 30th, 2018 for the 911 employees.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none. Bill 79-18, there's an amendment for general obligation bonds. You want to talk about that now?
Sure. The 7918 is a request for approval of the bond ordinance so that the county can sell bonds totaling bonds of $600 million, 350 for the consolidated public improvement projects, and 250 million for the metropolitan district. That's the number of amount in bonds, but an equivalent amount is also being requested in terms of bands, where the county may issue bands first and find savings there, and then when the right moment comes for us to issue the bonds, we'll come back later and replace those bands with bonds. Bands are short-term notes that are easier for us to process. There's also part of the request to approve the option of refunding bonds, that if the marketplace is in the right condition, if there are outstanding bonds that the county has still in the market, that we would sort of replace them, defease them, and be able to save funds rather than continue to hold on to them at perhaps a higher interest rate. If we can get a better rate, then we are requesting for approval for being able to do that as well. And then the one last section in terms of installment purchase agreement program, that's a program we've had in place for several years that gives an option to someone who perhaps has some farmland and they want to be able to get access to some monies now but not face the cost of capital gains. They can put it in a sort of deferred program and earn monies while they are still holding on to that land. And that's another potential option for the use of bond revenues that we're seeking right now.
Councilman Quirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3 questions, if I might. The first one is, I know the Prague report should be to the council soon. Do you know when the Prague report will be delivered to the council?
I expect to have it in time for the next council work session, which I think is on November 13th.
Okay.
We should have it by then.
And then, how does this fall within spending affordability guidelines?
Well, in terms of these funds here, they are in anticipation through the current fiscal year. But as we've shared, as we went through the last process, the county is challenged in terms of where we are in terms of our debt levels. And you'll see more of that when, as I said, when you get the report out.
And then the third question is this, is any of this debt issuance, the $600 million, we have bonds that are maturing all the time, and we have, lots of different movement with bonds all the time in Baltimore County. Is this net new debt, or is this some of this,
The $600 million that we're issuing in bands is net new debt.
Thank you. Councilman Katz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look at page 10 of the notes, do you have the same thing we have? It says capital budget debt affordability guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at debt outstanding as percent of total property value, it indicates that we have about $174 million more that we can borrow before we hit the 2.5% limit. So I assume that with the $600 million that we're going to go above 2.5%?
Well, in terms of this number that you have there, I'm not sure whether it was done, that updates for what it shows that anticipation at the end of the year. So I don't know whether these numbers anticipated that item, because it's been out there when we did the budget. So I'm not sure if these numbers already reflected or not. This is, as it's stated, it's dated as of June 30th, 2019. So I don't know, I didn't prepare this, I don't know whether it's already incorporated in here or not. Because we would have given the auditor's office a schedule of all of that.
I know that the auditor's office and I looked at this a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, just taking an educated guess, we had figured that there was about $400 million between our current debt and to take us up to the 2.5% limit. So I'm,
Well, let's be
you know,
clear
I am a
also.
little confused as to.
Can
so
I
you
clear
don't
up
know
one,
if this- I'm
clear up one thing? I said 600 million, it was in total. Only 350 is for the consolidated public improvement, which is one of the limits you're showing here. The amount that's Metro is under a different limit, which
Right.
is another 250. So effectively, you're talking about the number of 350, not 600, and as you're making your comparison, if you want to look at this particular chart.
And so if we're looking at that number, it's still higher than 174 million.
Well, as I said, I don't know. You'd have to check with the auditor's office as to whether or not their number included the debt that we had anticipated was going to be issued during this fiscal year, because that's part of the schedules that we share with them at budget time. Okay.
But we're still, do you know what that percent, is it like up to 2.3 or 2.4%? I mean, I guess we're getting pretty close to the 2.5, I would assume. Okay, that's it. Well, can she give her answer a little later?
Yes, fine.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any additional questions? All right, Mr. Dorsey, we'll move right along to page 14, a contract, Total Contracting, Inc., on-call carpentry service.
Okay. So that's number 3. You actually have 3 fiscal matters connected to one another. Your fiscal matters 3, 4, and 7 are 3 contracts that deal with on-call carpentry. There is 2 for what we call a tier 2. That's total contracting. That's fiscal matter number 3, and the JB and Hayes Construction, which is fiscal matter number 7. Both of those are contracts that would be for 1 year with 4 one-year renewals and the possibility of a 4-month extension at the end of any of those terms. And the not to exceed for all 3 contracts is actually $5,224,208. The fiscal matter number 4, as I said, is also another on-call carpentry service, JB Contracting. And what we have is created a lower tier 1 in terms of allowing opportunities for businesses to compete. And they too would have a 1 year with the possibility of 4 1-year extensions, a 4-month extension at the end of any of those years. And again, as I said, the not to exceed level over that full 5-year, 4-month period for all three combined cannot exceed $5,224,208.
Okay, are there any questions? Hearing no questions, I guess we'll move on to page 17. You took care of 3, 4, and 7, so we go to page 17, item number 5, amendment to the contract with Lorenz.
Right. The county entered into a contract with 3 vendors initially to provide streetscape services. In other words, pruning and fixing up the beds of some areas of the around buildings or in certain right-of-ways. And we originally had 3 vendors, but one of them we had to let go, and so we had a vacancy in terms of service for the Dundalk and West Side areas of the county. And so we went with one of the 2 contractors who was able to pick up the slack and provide those services in, as I said, the Dundalk and West Side areas of the county. The amount of their original contract was for almost $345,000. We're increasing it by $154,000, bringing the total up to $499,193 for a contract with Lorenz Incorporated, still under the existing terms that we had, which was a 5-year, 3-month term for their contract.
So that I understand, you're increasing the Lorenz contract from 345 up to 499.
That's correct, as we let go one of the other vendors.
Okay, and it says streetscaping services. Are we talking cutting grass, or what are we talking?
We're talking about, as I said, pruning areas. It's in terms of the beds where you have along the road or along the buildings, you have beds outside. They're maintaining those beds in terms of putting down mulch, putting down other kinds of things, cutting around that particular area where there is a designated streetscape area. I believe in some of your notes you may have a listing of some of those sections in both the Dundalk area as well as on the west side, specifically some of those locations. You would be able to see that in terms of those would be the areas that would be maintained.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dorsey, just want to make sure that it is still in this contract that the contractor must pick up trash before they mow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to be certain of that.
Although,
And I'm just hoping that this contractor does a good job because there's a large section of Dundalk that is going to be taken care of by them. So, you know, and people are watching, and they don't hesitate to call us if grass is mowed over along with the trash and trash gets strewn everywhere, or they simply don't do a very good job. So I'm hopeful that this new contractor will. So thank you. And while I have the microphone, I do want to thank Mr. Homan and Mr. Blendy from the County Executive's Office for helping to organize the Great Pig Roundup of Dundalk in 2018. For those of you who might not know, we had a constituent that had 7 pigs magically appear on his property where there are no farms. and they magically appeared, and they were destroying his lawn and his landscaping. And Mr. Homan, within 1 hour, had Baltimore County Animal Services and the Ag Center representatives to help round up the pigs. 6 of them came into the trailer, were rounded up. We have 1 escapee that took another 24 hours to get, but they are now living comfortably until harvest at the Ag Center. So I'm not sure if Baltimore County is going to be launching its own brand of Scrapple anytime soon, but I guess the jury's out on that. But I do appreciate the quick response because it was a little bit of a harrowing experience for some of our constituents. So thank you.
Sounds like some type of political statement. Any additional questions? Okay. All right, Mr. Dorsey. Let's see, where are we now? Now we're moving on to M&E sales, boiler cleaning.
Yes. Fiscal matter number 6
Yes, page 21.
is a matter in terms of a request for a contract for doing boiler cleaning and inspection services, proposing to award the contract to M&E Sales. It would be for a 1-year period with 4 1-year extensions and the possibility of a 3-month extension at the end of any of those terms. The amount not to exceed for that entire 5-year, 3-month period would be $1,250,000. They'll provide labor and supervision materials and equipment to provide care to 46 boilers in 18 different locations around the county.
How often do they clean the boilers, Mr. Dorsey?
I believe it's a requirement that it should be every year or at least every other year.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay, Mr. Dorsey, let's see here. Moving right along to page 24, fiscal item number 8, contract with Siemens Industry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is for maintenance and repair of HVAC systems in 12 different county buildings that has the Siemens HVAC control systems as their ventilation and system. So this is, again, this is a contract for 1 year, well, a total of 5 years, with the possibility of a 120-day, 4-month extension. The not-to-exceed level for the full 5-year, 4-month term is $714,564.
Any questions? Well, that'll do it. Thank you very much, Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Next, we'll move right along to page 7. Matt Lawrence, from the Police Department. It's a contract with Centennial Protection Group.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Captain
afternoon.
Dave Trivett standing in for Mr. Lawrence. This is a contract with Centennial Protection Group in reference to background investigations and polygraph examinations through contract. Within the last year, the police employment section was tasked with conducting background investigations for the Baltimore County Fire Department and the Department of Corrections. The number of investigations total with those combined exceeds the current capability of our current staff, which is mainly part-time police assistants. So in addition to the background and polygraph examinations for sworn and civilian police positions, we also do County Office of Information Technology, Office of Budget and Finance, and then we also do some of the corrections and fire applicants. So the contractor would primarily be used to conduct background investigations and polygraph examinations for the Department of Corrections applicants, and depending on the vacancy level and workload, may also be used for fire department application background investigations.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much, Captain Dave.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Moving right along to page 10, item number 2, Steve Walsh. Snow removal.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, you are correct. It is getting colder, unfortunately. The administration is requesting approval of 2 contracts. One is with Ronald C. Yateman, doing business as R. Yateman Contractors, and the second one is J.E. Myers Incorporated to provide manpower and equipment for one-call snow removal and salt application services. Each contract commences November 1st and will continue through December 31st of this year, and may not exceed $25,000 unless the contracts are approved by the council. If approved, each contract will continue through April 30th of next year and will automatically renew for 9 additional years. And the snow season is November 1st through April 30th. Compensation for these contracts, together with all other contracts or services, may not exceed the amount appropriated for snow removal and salt application services during the entire term of the contract, including renewals. These contracts are the same as many similar contracts as council has seen over the course of my experience as director. R. Yateman Contractors is providing 1 3/4-ton pickup truck. J.E. Myers is providing 4 1-ton dump trucks, 1 single-axle dump truck, 1 tri-axle dump truck, and 2 skid loaders.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Moving right along, page 27, item number 9, Amy Grassi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract to acquire property totaling just under 23 acres for $100,000 to be used for passive open space. Windless Woods LLC currently owns the property, which is located in Middle River near the intersection of Benji's Road and Burke Road. The property is zoned, split zoned, DR2 and MLIM. We've had 2 outside consultant appraisals prepared in accordance with the requirements of program open space through the Department of Natural Resources, which will reimburse the county for the funds. The 2 appraisals were at the values of $120,000 and $600,000. The purchase price is $100,000. The property owner came to the county with that offer, and when presented with the 2 appraisals, agreed to accept the offer that he had made to the county in lieu of raising his demand.
Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Bevins.
I just want to thank Ms. Grassi. I know that sometimes it's easy to identify properties for POS, but not always to make the deal happen. So I appreciate the effort that went into purchasing this acreage, and I thought we got a great deal. And this was the 3rd acquisition for my district, and I'm really grateful, so thank you so much.
Any additional questions? Hearing none. Ms. Grassi, I guess we'll go on to page 30. Contract of sale with MCBH Parkway Crossing.
Yes, sir. This is a capital item. The administration is requesting approval of a contract to acquire drainage and utility and temporary construction easements for the East Branch Herring Run Relief Sewer Project. The appraised value is $69,796 for the approximately 2.71 acres. And the contract is for the appraised value. The property is located at 2331 Cleanly Drive in 21234.
Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just also want to make another comment. This has been very important to my district. I just recently, along with Mr. Walsh and some of the folks from over in his agency, met with the Hartford Park folks. That I think that this has a lot to do with some of the issues that they're having. So I'm really grateful to the administration for this funding.
Any additional questions? Move right along, Ms. Grassi, to page 33. Contract of sale with Michael and Dorothy Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The administration is requesting approval of a contract to acquire drainage and utility easement and temporary construction easement area totaling 0.12 acres for $16,399 from Michael F. and Dorothy K. Ruff across their property at 312 East Timonium Road, which is in the Timonium area of the county near Pot Spring Road. And this is to repair and maintain an aging storm drain through that area.
Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Next, we'll move right along to page 5. Residential permit parking, Bill 80-18. Mr. Marks.
Thank you very much. Under current law, a residential parking permit is available only to a motor vehicle owner or operator who resides in the residential parking area. Bill 80-18 proposes to amend the law to allow the owner of a vehicle that is used by an assisted living facility to apply for a permit for that area if the vehicle is used to transport residents in the facility. I'm introducing this legislation basically to deal with the situation of Brightview and Towson. Brightview at Towson was constructed well after the residential permit parking area was established. I am willing to amend this bill to tighten it up so that the Director of Public Works would have the discretion on whether to grant the permit. Certainly willing to do that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Marks.
Thank you.
The next item is page 6, Bill 82-18. It was introduced by myself. This bill simply, several years ago, maybe it was last year, we increased the fines for people parking tractor trailers on on the street, and it was cheaper to pay the fine of $50 than it was to find a proper place to park their vehicle. So now they seem to been parking their vehicles on private property, and the property owners call the police, and the police, again, the law only allows them to charge them with a $50 fine. So we're going to change the fine for parking on private property without the permission of the owner to the same level of $250 as it is in parking a car on, a tractor trailer on a residential street. Any questions? Certainly welcome any additional support from the members or sponsorship. And now we'll move on to page 42. Correspondence in terms of non-competitive awards.
That will be read at the next, at the legislative session on Monday night.
Okay. Moving on to page 36. Mr. Marks.
I'm going to defer this to the next work session, if that's possible.
You're going to defer this to the next work session?
Yes.
Okay. Moving along, we'll skip around a little bit. We'll go to page 40. resolution with Councilwoman Bevins, Marks, and Crandall. Resolution 110-18.
That's me. Whoops. My bad. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Resolution 110-48 is a mandatory parental guidance policy. This resolution would encourage the owners of the White Marsh Mall to implement a parental guidance policy on just Friday and Saturday evenings after 5. Under such a policy, visitors under the age of 17 to be accompanied by an adult, which is 21 or over. Similar policies have had a positive effect on the Towson Town Center, the Avenue, and Hunt Valley. I believe that a parental guidance policy at the White Marsh Mall will improve the experience for the patrons, the families who are shopping there, and the employees who are also working there, as it has in Towson and Hunt Valley. Whether it is a teenager that's holding down their first job or someone that's been going to the mall for many years, a parental guidance policy would be positive for everyone. This idea has been discussed in the past, and now it is time to act. I thank my colleagues, Councilman Marks and Councilman Crandall, for co-sponsoring the resolution, and I ask all my colleagues for their support.
Any questions or comments from the members? Go ahead, Councilman Marks.
Thank you. I'll just repeat what my colleague, Councilwoman Bevins, said. We had an incident at Towson Town Center in December 2015 and worked with the mall management, and they, of their own initiative, placed this youth escort policy into motion. I think it has had a terrific impact at the mall. It is good that the private sector did this, not the government. I agree with my colleagues that this is an important step in ensuring public safety, both for patrons and employees at the mall.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
may,
Councilman
I obviously concur with my colleagues and co-sponsors. There's another example in Baltimore County in our own district where there is a charity carnival that's been going on for, probably 30 years or more. And some incidents had sparked up at this carnival, and the leadership of the carnival voluntarily put a youth guidance policy where youths would have to be accompanied by an adult. And it's now a more family-friendly event, and has occurred in the last 2 years without incident. So I think the proof is at the malls and shopping centers that have instituted such a policy, and then there's another one sort of at an annual charity event that this policy has benefited everyone.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to add that I did meet with the management of the White Marsh Mall, and they didn't want to, quote unquote, be boxed into such a policy. So that is the reason why I moved forward with the resolution.
I guess I'll make a brief comment. I tell you, it's what it shows me when we think about kids hanging out at the mall. It shows me that we don't have enough things for our kids to do in terms of recreation, whether it be recreation centers, community centers. We need to have places for these kids to go to hang out and socialize other than the mall, other than a shopping destination. So to me, this is just sort of telling that we need to do more. So we have a speaker, Mr. Samuel Jordan. Good afternoon, Mr. Jordan.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman Jones and members of the council. My name is Samuel Jordan. I'm the president of the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition, and I'm here to speak against the resolution. And I think there have been several comments that sort of, frankly, perhaps without intending to support my position. Councilmember Mark said that he left this to the private sector without government interference. We support that idea of leaving it to the private sector. First of all, we too have met with the mall management. In fact, this past Thursday, we recommended what we call a peer ambassadors program. A peer ambassadors program has been tried in other areas, has proven very successful. What it does is, when there have been such incidents, that a group of peers, young people themselves, are formed into what's called a Peer Ambassador Program. On Friday and Saturday night at White Marsh Mall, we proposed to management, and we're discussing that with them now. We're still in negotiation with them now about this. That is, 8 young people, balanced, black, white, men and women, young men and young women, county and the city of Baltimore, will act as a intermediary cohort. Young people who are able to identify and diffuse disputes before they become conflicts, rather than locking the youth down. But also, this is the worst part of the year, to send a security message about White Marsh Mall. Management has proven already since August, this was August 4th, I believe, when this incident occurred most recently. There's been none since, but management has actually beefed up security without making it heavy presence, but they've taken care of it themselves and have proven capable of doing so. What we would like to make sure is that we indicate that this issue is not simply an issue about the parental guidance plan. In fact, where it has been tried elsewhere in the region, the Avenue, other shopping centers, it has had only a minimal effect, this parental guidance program. In fact, as the council members who are sponsoring know, that only a handful fewer calls to security have been made at the Avenue as a result of their parental guidance program. And if you go to the website of the White Marsh Mall, you'll see that they have already a voluntary parental guidance. They encourage parents to accompany their young people to the mall. But as I was saying earlier, this is the wrong time of the year to make that issue. If the narrative, if the message is that White Marsh Mall needs beefed up security, that's a suggestion that perhaps it's better for me to take my young people, to go elsewhere and to take my youngsters elsewhere to shop. That's the wrong message. We think that the council should give the management and our team, the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition, an opportunity to try this Peers Ambassadors program, see if it works. Give it a trial period. We're proposing to the management 6 months. They said they want to clear our proposal with their headquarters in Chicago. We are awaiting that. And we think that this is much better to do. There's nothing to lose. If the council withholds this resolution now, addresses it later, if there are problems, that perhaps makes good sense. But at this point, we would provide or insist that the incident back in August, I want to revisit that for a moment. What actually occurred, I'll make this brief, and thank you so much. Council members Bevins and Marks actually requested from MTA a reduction in transit service to the mall.
No, we didn't.
Please excuse me. What we have, as a result, in fact, we were on the same WBAL interview program with them, suggesting that there was this influx of young people, nothing to do, unsupervised, causing trouble at the mall. Well, that really wasn't the case as reported by the police. In fact, there were other circumstances involved, other factors involved that the mall management itself really resolved to take care of. It didn't require 36 additional police officers from around the area to subdue or to quiet. We think, nevertheless, if there is a dispute on it, disputes can occur. But we do think management should have the opportunity to resolve this voluntarily. In fact, the council resolution would not have the force of law. This is a private enterprise and actually can conduct its own affairs.
Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Bevins.
Well, first, thank you for coming in, sir.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate this dialogue between the two of us. First and foremost, I do want to say that after that incident, there was a stabbing on the parking lot 5 days later. After all that security was beefed up, there was a stabbing 5 days after that incident. I would encourage you to go to any Facebook page that someone starts talking about White Marsh. and they will say, I don't go after 5. I don't shop there anymore. We used to go to the restaurants there. We don't go anymore. The general manager herself said to me, we just have so many kids in the mall, and they're just all over the place. And, I mean, she said it herself. There are just so many kids all in that mall. And we give them an opportunity. David Marks and I met with the Avenue, White Marsh Mall, security, and the police department as well right after that incident, the Monday after. And they were the ones that brought up the MTA. We didn't ask for reduction in service. What we asked for actually was more service, because the problem at the end of that night, and there were 36 police officers called and a helicopter and state police for that incident. The issue was that it was 40 minutes before another bus was coming. The children that were there, the youths that were there, were not from the area, and so there was no place for them to go after they arrested the 9. They still had 40 to 50 youth to get out of there. We asked for more frequent stops in that loop to actually keep people moving, people that were getting off of work, kids that wanted to get on the bus stop. The only thing we inquired about was that there was I believe, a 11 p.m. Stop, and then there wasn't another one till 1:30, and we asked what the ridership was of that 1:30. That's all we did. We never asked for it to be stopped. It was a conversation. That's all. But we didn't ask for the service to be stopped. We asked for more frequent ridership to be made available, because that was a real problem for the police that night, to try to keep 40 or 50, aggravated teenagers, gathered in one place until that bus came.
If I might reply, Councilmember Bevins, I appreciate the remarks, but I don't think that's made a case for why it should be done now. I don't see that as the urgency. I don't think you've made a case that the mall can't handle it. That stabbing 5 days earlier may or may not have had anything to do with the circumstances that could have been developed or controlled by the mall management in the mall proper. I think that there's
they're
been
responsible for outside the mall as well on their property.
But excuse me, I think there's been no case made for why the management should not be given the opportunity to make an adjustment if it can, to give this a try, rather than the council resolving and voting on a non-binding resolution.
Councilman Marks?
That's why they've done in Towsontown and go to White Marsh.
Yeah, it's perplexing why Towsontown Center has implemented this policy, but White Marsh, shown by the same company, is not. But I just want to thank you. You've actually brought us a very positive idea. I know there's another program called the Inner Harbor Project that we've talked to some folks about. You have presented a solution, perhaps. Others did not.
Right.
And politicians from around the region, including in Baltimore County, criticized us and didn't present a solution. A lot of rhetoric. On this council, I've been very pro-transit in a lot of respects. I've supported the Towson Circulator. A lot of rhetoric, and you presented a solution, and I want to thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much.
We should look into what you're talking about.
We'd like them all to have that opportunity as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, just very briefly, I mean, I think some of the issues we're seeing, whether it's at White Marsh or whether it's at Towson, I'm seeing that at other malls as well. Lots of kids and, some rowdiness that's, I haven't seen before, and especially in the last, 12, 18, 24 months. So, I'm interested in looking at all different options out there and what ways, we as a community can come together, working with mall owners and working with citizens. So I'm definitely interested in all the different options and, appreciate the dialogue.
Well, I tell you, when you think about people who own shopping malls, their goal is a shopping experience. That's all they think about. I would, if they were here today, I would tell them, everyone knows that the shopping experience by itself is not enough anymore. You just can't lower your prices and draw people in. You can't compete with the internet with the convenience of sitting home. So now what's happening with shopping centers across the country, they're realizing they have to have some type of draw to get people there, they have to have Friday night concerts. They have to have different experiences to bring people into the mall. And I would really ask them to really think about what they're doing in terms of, if they probably put some thought to it, they could probably make more money if they were to come up with something, because the government seems like we're not doing a good enough job in terms of recreation, things for the kids to do. If they were to come up with something more organized, a place, because in most of these shopping centers, there's plenty of vacancies that you can maybe have some chaperones and bring them in and make them pay to enter and make money, and there's a win here somewhere if they were to think that way. But anyway, any additional questions? That's my 2 cents on the matter. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. I was curious. You said you were with the Transit Equity.
The Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition, yes.
Right. So I was just looking at the website, and I can see what you're about. And I was curious, why did you guys take on this particular issue?
Because
maybe I'm reading it wrong.
No, you're correct. We did take this issue on, one, because it is associated with a challenge, perhaps a challenge to complete equal, unbiased access to all transportation options and services in the region. Okay. And this is related in that sense. The other is ours is of regional emphasis. We think, frankly, that hopefully in the near future, this council, the county council in Anne Arundel County and in Baltimore City, would, with their leadership, develop a regional conference to address transportation issues in the region. And we hope so we're active in Baltimore City, in Anne Arundel County, and in Baltimore County.
Okay. Thank you very much for the explanation. Any additional questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you so much.
Sure. We'll move right along to page 37, Resolution 107-18. Mr. Marks.
About 2 years ago, the owner of the Presbyterian Home of Maryland announced plans to close its facility in western Towson. Both Baltimore County and the state of Maryland declined to purchase this for open space, leaving the owner to engage a development team with impeccable historic preservation credentials. And the proposal was for a residential condominium community at the site. County Council passed the resolution that advanced the further review of this project. A formal community input meeting was held. I reviewed the minutes from the community input meeting. I watched some of the video from that meeting. And the overwhelming consensus was to make some changes to the proposal advanced by the developer. That's what this resolution does. The resolution addresses landscaping. It also addresses the widening of roads in this community, which many members do not want to see happen. But I want to make it very clear, this is private property. If the PUD does not advance, the owner of the private property could always sell the property for other uses, or the property owner could simply shutter it up and it remains vacant in the community. And I think that is why so many of the stakeholder organizations in this area have supported the development plan at this site, including the Southland Hills Improvement Association, the Preservation Alliance of Baltimore County, others who've expressed support for this plan. So the resolution, if passes, simply modifies the conditions under which this project is further reviewed. Thank you. Thomas.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman.
Just have a question, Councilman Marks. Reading it, the applicant's not responsible for any storm drain upgrades to Georgia Court, Florida Road, or Dixie Drive. But if it, just because I don't know enough about storm drain upgrades, if they are determined that there are storm drain upgrades that need to happen, does that mean that the taxpayer is now going to be responsible?
My understanding is that the county is asking them to do things that are above and beyond the current project. Mr. Rob Allmiller is here. Do you want to address that can he address that question?
Sure,
again?
if you want me to.
Do you mind that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Although Steve Walsh is not here
Well,
to talk about the county's perspective.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak. My name is Rob Allmiller. I'm partners with Delbert Adams and Marty Azzola on this project. We submitted a concept plan for this project, went through a concept plan conference with the county. In that conference, several agencies identified projects that they wanted us to incorporate into ours. These projects, in our mind, were public improvement projects, and two of them, the two main ones, were widening the roads around the project. And when we went to our community input meeting, that was a hot topic, and I would say 95% of the residents in that community, along with the community association, asked us to not widen the roads. They thought it ruined the historic charm of the community, and they wanted the community roads to be left as is. The other improvement was a previously identified upgrade to the county storm drain system in that area. This is something that the county has been working on for a couple years. They hired an engineering firm, started the engineering for the process. Apparently the storm drains in the roads now aren't adequate for the, or need repair, I guess, to work better. And they, when our project came through the line, they asked us to do it instead of the county. So we don't know what exactly the cost of that is. The county would have a better idea because they're the ones that have had this project for I don't know, a year or so. But it's certainly, you know, we've made a lot of compromises to try to create a project that fits into the community and satisfies a lot of the concerns of the community. This is really something that would be a financial hardship and was never included in the original scope. And it's always been a county project, and we think it should remain a county project.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Malley.
We have three speakers. Mr. Tom Gaylor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Thomas Gaylor. My wife and I live on 9 Florida Road. And just want to say that because of the PUD is going to increase the population density in South on the Hills, I do not support Resolution 10718. The resolution disregards the traffic recommendations that have been made to handle the increase in population that will occur because of the buildings. It also allows the developer not to be responsible for the stormwater runoff, which there's going to be more stormwater runoff since we're losing green space that could potentially absorb some of that with the new buildings. So I'm against it for that reason. And as a resident, I want my streets to be safely navigable by the daily travelers and the emergency vehicles. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next we have, and you say your last name is Scaler? Gaylor. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Next, Georgia Chantilidis? Chantillis Ruby.
Welcome and thank you, members of the council, for letting me speak. Sure. I would like to direct you, in order to save some time, the residents on Florida Road in Southland Hills did compose a paper. You've been given a copy, I've been told, and we are asking for your courtesy to read this at some point. I will highlight a few of the salient points made in this paper. I am against the resolution because never before has a planned unit development required anything more than the initial enabling measure allowing the project to proceed, but because Bosley Estates is the wrong project for the wrong property, this resolution now is calling for the county reviewing officials to ignore national transportation road widening standards and to look the other way when enforcing stormwater management policies. The deference is saving the developer millions of dollars while burdening the county taxpayers with infrastructure improvements that should be and have historically been the responsibility of the developer. On a personal note, I just don't feel as though anyone has listened in terms of the traffic and the parking problems. I have lived at 7 Florida Road for 34 years, and it gives me a perspective of what's happening with the increased density in people in the Towson area. We are the gateway into this community. We are desperately in need of being able to have a parking space. There are only 2 properties in Southland Hills, especially on this perimeter, that don't have their own driveway. I'm number 7, and my neighbor's at number 9, which means we have to park on the street. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to pull into Florida Road, which is only 24 feet wide, and I've tried to come down the road only to have to back up onto West Chesapeake, because when cars are parked on this 24-foot wide road, the two-way traffic is not something that people are capable of doing. So we have people who come on a regular basis to park because they either live there or they're coming into Towson to get permits or go to the court building. Now you can only have one person going down a two-way street. It has become extremely dangerous. And I'm frustrated because I don't think, as has happened at the CIM meeting, something has been left out in terms of the conversation. The right question isn't whether or not the street should be widened. The right question is why we have abandoned the original plan of 2.5 years ago, accepted a development plan that would not be a PUD, which by the very definition is too much development, in this neighborhood whose streets were built over 90 years ago to accommodate Model Ts. I don't know if you'll listen or if you'll care, but I am letting you know now that I am a proponent of keeping the beautiful vista in the green space and retaining livability in this absolute gem of a neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Ann Stoyenbos? Snowenbos.
Ann Snowenbos, 5 Florida Road. I do not support this resolution. I want to address the stormwater management aspect of the resolution. We know that lawns and trees help absorb rainfall and delay the movement of storm waters into the storm drain system. Please do not allow this project to go forward without adequate stormwater management. The homeowners downhill from Bosley Mansion have already suffered for years from existing drainage issues on the property. Don't make that worse by allowing this overdevelopment with 8 buildings occupying almost the entire footprint of the property on top of a decrepit drainage system. Stormwater management policies must be fully enforced before this project can go forward.
Thank you very much. Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. You know, we have a job where it's impossible to please everyone. The developer has tried to make changes, and every time the developer makes a change, there's opposition from some folks to that change. I do want to address 2 important points. First, regarding the road width, I do know a little bit about transportation policy in that I worked for the Maryland Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. The guidelines I think that the folks are referring to are the AASHTO standards, American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, which often require a developer to build to projections in the future. And sometimes those large roads are not the best roads for a community. We see this all the time. and they lead to more traffic, more speeding, and sometimes, you know, you need to say, no, those are not applicable in every circumstance. And the second thing about, you know, the council has never considered a revision to an earlier resolution. Well, think back to 2 summers ago. We've done it. We've done it in a lot of cases where a resolution has been introduced to change elements of something that's already been considered. It's totally appropriate what we're doing today. In fact, the council adopted this procedure 6 years or so ago. So I just wanted to address those 2 points.
Well, I guess the only question I would ask is not getting into the stormwater, because I certainly take the gentleman at his word. I don't know enough about it, but what I do know is every project that I've seen, we require the developer to widen the road. I've seen churches have to widen Windsor Mill Road. There's a 2-lane road for miles, and then it turns into this extra long wide part, and then after the church's property is gone, it goes back down to the 2. So I've seen us do that time and time again, and I know we're thinking about the future, and I'm just curious to you, why should we get into the business of, I understand we can't please everybody, but we are Baltimore County. So when Baltimore County says we should do something in terms of their standards or requirements, why should we get into business of not doing it?
Because we're the legislative branch, because we're elected by the voters and we listen to stakeholders. And in this case, a neighborhood association seems to agree that maintaining these roads at a smaller width is better for that neighborhood. You know, Baltimore County does a lot of things right, but quite frankly, we don't have the most progressive reputation when it comes to planning and you know, slowing down traffic and embracing different ways of looking at transportation. Sometimes we build roads too big, and roads should be smaller to slow down the traffic and make sure the things are more compatible for the neighborhoods. We've experienced that in all of our districts, I think. We don't always build roads this big. Sometimes they should be this big. Forge Road.
Okay,
Forge
so
Road's a great example.
the woman that was just here just said she had to back up on Chesapeake Avenue sometimes because the road not wide enough.
Well, many of the residents do not want the roads widened.
Okay. Councilman Quirk, and then I'll give you an opportunity, sir.
Yeah, and I would also express some concern about storm drain upgrades, because if the applicant's not responsible and these upgrades still have to happen, that just means all the other taxpayers are now responsible for this issue. And, you know, I'm looking at, you know, all these recent rains, and I'm looking at the county and what we have to deal with over the next several years. We have so many issues with storm drains and upgrades, and I mean, I know several dozen people, communities, homes in Oella, Cadensville alone that would like storm drain upgrades. So we take $1 from one place, move to another place. There's obviously less dollars when there's hardly enough dollars anyway. So just some concerns, you know, look forward to working with the administration, understanding where Public Works is, work with Councilman Marks, working with the council, but it is something that I think we have to be careful, because, you know, we do something like this, then every single development that happens here on out, people are going to want, of course, you know, hey, why don't you waive my storm drains, and why don't you not widen my roads, and why don't you not do anything that Public Works is telling you to do, which I think can be a slippery slope.
Any additional questions or comments? I promise this gentleman an opportunity. Yes, sir. Wait a minute. You can. Sure. It's okay.
Thank you very much.
State your name, sir.
My name is Jeremiah McAdam. I live at 417 Georgia Court. My house faces the property in question. I would like to, I guess, from the perspective of Georgia Court, echo the concerns that some of my neighbors have shared here today. For me, when it comes to the streets, I think in the end it needs to be a question of safety and what does fit, but also meet some safety standards. Florida is very narrow. I think there could be some intermediate options there, but the roads have also been in disrepair for years. And being small streets, I guess we fall pretty far down the list as far as getting those things addressed. So having that, again, put off when there's going to be a lot of construction going through there anyway, I just question the sense of putting that off indefinitely when we have an opportunity, especially when the opportunity is one that I think, as Chairman Jones mentioned, this is something that is typical in the process for developments. The developer does certain things because that's the way it works. On the opposite side from my house, there's the Towson YMCA. When they went through their entire scrape and rebuild, it's my understanding that as a nonprofit organization, they were expected to take care of all of their stormwater management, any connections to the county drainage system, and any upgrades that would go along with that. They had to pay for that, just like Mr. Jones said, a church would have to do. So I question why we would lift that typical expectation for this particular property, given that it is a for-profit enterprise. It seems like the wrong place for us to make an exception. And then, as Mr. Quirk said, it does open up every future development to that same kind of exception. When it comes to the stormwater and the drainage system, I'm somewhat fortunate, being the first line as we go down the grade from the Presbyterian home. The water tends to run around my house, but with these recent rains, even my house experienced flooding, and I know that my neighbors on the backside of my property and farther down the hill, we've seen them running generators with almost like fire hoses, shooting jets of water out of their basement because of the rain. I don't see how we would miss this opportunity to improve that for the entire neighborhood, just to save a for-profit enterprise millions of dollars, which would then come out of our pockets anyway whenever the county did have the time and the means to do that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Was there anybody else want to make? I'm going to give the gentleman an opportunity to make another brief statement, please, because we're.
Thank you again. I just want to clear up any misconceptions. The project is not asking for any relief from stormwater management. In fact, the property was started to be developed in the 1800s, and there's no stormwater management on the site now. So we will be implementing stormwater management. The runoff from this site will be considerably less when we're done than it is now. So the surrounding infrastructure will have less burden on it after the project is complete. The storm drain upgrades were identified by the county prior to this project being conceived. They are what's needed for the existing community. They are not needed for our community. As I said, we will be reducing the runoff on our project and have a less impact on the systems. And the traffic, we will be going through the normal traffic study process with the county. The facility has been operating as a 100-bed assisted living facility for 90 years or so, and the traffic didn't lessen when they considered the facility obsolete and they shut down. And we believe that our proposed use will have less traffic than the existing facility did when it was up and running. But a complete traffic study will be conducted as part of the normal development process. Thank you.
Okay. Residents didn't have cars. Right. Got it. Good point. Good point. And okay. Thank you. Let me just take this opportunity to thank everybody for coming out to testify today. We certainly appreciate your comments. And I have an announcement myself. but I know Councilwoman Bevins wanted to say something. I don't want to steal her thunder.
Oh, no, it's not thunder. I just wanted a point of privilege to just acknowledge the police officer that was involved in a shooting incident last night in my district in Parkville. He was an off-duty police officer who serves in the 3rd precinct, not in Parkville, but he was in Parkville where the incident happened. And I guess this is just an example of dedication and sacrifice that all police officers make, whether they are on duty or off duty, and I'm very grateful for their service. He is home recovering.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I would just like to take this opportunity. I see my friend Mike Day in the audience, and I know that he has put in many, many, many years in leading the IAFF, International Association of Firefighters, here in Baltimore County. It's my understanding that the election did not go his way, but I'm here to say that, you know, having been in the fire service and been a union leader for 30-some years, I can say that I think a mistake was made in not electing you, sir. But I know we're in the business. This is the way things sort of work. But I can congratulate you on everything you've done, and all the dealings that I've had with you has been nothing but professional. I think you have always put your membership interest in the forefront, yet at the same time you always understood the position of the county and in terms of the financial constraints we've had. And I think that made for a good partnership. And being on the outside, sometimes I can honestly say that I've looked at the way you behaved in your union, and I looked at other unions, and I've often tried to say, now, what is best for the membership? And I can honestly say that I believe that your approach and your working with the county has been the best approach. And I think it has yielded benefits to the members as well as to the county. So I just want to thank you for your service in terms of that position, and I certainly wish you well. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.